Hello, my name is Malcolm Hayles. This film you are about to see was taken by me. It contains VHS footage of the railways in Grimsby and Cleethorpes during the 1980s and cine camera footage taken in 1964. Unfortunately, some of its sharpness was lost during conversion. British Railways in Grimsby during the 1980s was in decline. In the previous 20 years, Grimsby had lost 25% of passenger and 99% of freight traffic. The cine camera clip taken at East Marsh Sidings shows how busy it was with frozen foods before the beaching cuts took hold. However, a small amount of steel traffic remained on the western side of the docks. We begin the film at Littlefield Lane, a level crossing that was built in 1848. Initially the gates were operated by the user. However, in 1885 the then Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company built next to the down main line a signal box containing a 13-lever tappet frame. On the day of filming, resident signalman Norman Dennis was on duty. This diesel multiple unit on the up main line, heading towards Grimsby town, was probably a Barton on Humber to Cleethorpes passenger train. This train, also on the up main line, was a Doncaster Cleethorpes passenger train. The next level crossing in the eastern direction was Cartergate. Erected in 1848, it is known as Friargate Crossing, named as such after a nearby religious house comprising of the Order of Black Friars. The crossing gates were originally operated by a gateman until this small signal box was erected in the latter months of 1885. The signal box is the same design as Littlefield Lane. On this date, relief signalman John Bell was opening the gates by wheel mechanism and signalling the train from Wellergate to Littlefield Lane. This view is of Friargate signal box looking from track level under Deansgate Bridge. Deansgate Bridge opened on the 28th of April 1848 and has been the main route for road traffic over the railways at this point. We are now looking at Friargate Crossing from the top of the bridge. you could see how the line curves towards Littlefield Lane. On the other side of Deansgate Bridge, the lines curve over Wellergate Level Crossing towards Grimsby Town Station. Wellergate signal box standing next to the down main line replaced a gatehouse in 1877. This view from Wellergate Crossing shows a diesel multiple unit train standing on the up platform line in Grimsby Town Station. A Class 08 diesel shunting engine, known as Town Pilot Engine No. 2, is standing on the track known as Middle Road. Inside Wellergate signal box, resident signalman David Branson is signalling an ordinary passenger train on the up main line from Friargate into Grimsby Town Station.
Just got down to book basically before we drop them boundaries. System anyway. Here we go.
The continental barriers that David is lowering had been in place since 16th of May 1976.
Just get it done nicely by the time you
As the DMU on the up platform line departs towards Garden Street, another DMU arrives onto the down platform line. David prepares for its departure.
There was some book of run to these trains. We're going to switch them in here. No, there isn't. Really, there's somebody running here trying to catch you.
So somebody last minute, isn't there?
Everybody else coming through.
After David pulls the signal lever, the semaphore signal responds and the train departs the station. This is Grimsby Town Station. The entrance to the station is under the decorated canopy. The white double doors is the entrance to the parcels office. In 1986, this Class 150 DMU arrived into Grimsby prior to entering service on the Cleethorpes to Doncaster route. This is a view of the station from the Garden Street direction. The covered area canopy on platform number 1 was built in 1974 for loading bags of birdseed under contract. This level crossing was established in 1846 for ballast trains, with traffic for building the railway. A signal box known as Garden Street Junction was built in 1880 by the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company. It contained a 39-lever frame, and the signalman worked block sections between Wellergate and Pasture Street and between Goods Junction signal box of the Great Northern Railway. On duty this day, resident signalman Peter Windley is seen signalling an express passenger train between Pasture Street and Wellergate.
Matt, the cellulose can deteriorate a bit.
Yeah.
He said it's happening with me, he cleared off one after I thought, oh, for real then, I thought, Christ, he's cleared off one after Any road, East Marsh and all East Marsh, he said, alright, I will get somebody down there.
The express was the Cleethorpes to London King's Cross high-speed train. The train is arriving into number 2 platform line at Grimsby Town Station. The box was built high, so as the signalman could see the workings of the whole of the railway junction. Opening and closing the level crossing gate safely, however, needed a reasonable amount of skill. This is the signalman's wheel for operating the gates. Pasture Street, the next signal box, was built by British Rail and opened on the 29th of April 1962. In 1985, a re-signalling scheme created a single line between Pasture Street and Cleethorpes. Passing Holly Street and East Marsh Sidings connections is a DMU train heading towards Grimsby Town. Pasture Street's mechanical signal lever frame was removed during the re-signalling and replaced by an entry and exit panel working to the track circuit block regulations. The operation of colour light signals, the track points and a CCTV crossing between here and Cleethorpes were controlled from the panel. This is resident signalman Wilf Flinton signalling a train from Cleethorpes during 1987. These are the closed circuit television monitors for working the barriers at Fishdock Road. Wilf is now lowering the barriers over Pasture Street level crossing. This train from Cleethorpes is passing Holly Street and East Marsh Siding connections, which were removed soon after this film was taken. I am now standing on Newmarket Street footbridge, looking through the once busy Holly Street sidings towards Pasture Street. From the western side of the bridge stands Paul and Sanders malt kilns, next to what was the Central Market goods depot. A single flat wagon stands on what was the old shed line. The Cleethorpes single line runs through the middle, and you can see the redundant staff cabins and empty containers in Holly Street Sidings. This area became a car park for a well-known supermarket. Looking from the other side of the bridge, the single line to Cleethorpes runs through the middle of what was once East Marsh Sidings, Grimsby Loco and the carriage and wagon depot. The following film is from a cine camera filmed by me in 1964. Hanging onto the handrails of yard pilot engine number 3 is Class 3 shunter Peter Clark. The engine is travelling towards the tracks of Dyke and New England. The man in the brake van is Charlie Farmer. He was an East Marsh freight guard working on number 15 trip pilot engine that was propelling a train of frozen food containers from East Marsh onto the main line heading towards Cleethorpes Road Junction. Its destination was New Dock Siding. The containers had been loaded up with frozen foods in Cally Siding in Central Market Goods Depot and were to be attached to the fish trains that departed that evening from Grimsby docks. While the travelling pilot's train departs the yard, East Marsh pilot engine number 1, attached to a brake van, is seen standing in Lincoln Line next to the lines known as the Straight and Back Road, each containing empty AFP and AF frozen food container wagons. In the background you can just see high-rise flats under construction near Freeman Street. The wagons you can see on the other side of the main lines are stabled in Grimsby carriage and wagon sidings awaiting repair. After the travelling pilot had cleared Cleethorpes Road Junction, the next train on the up main line was a DMU, seen here having just passed Newbridge signal box heading towards Grimsby Dock Station. Returning to the 1980s, this is what was left of Grimsby Dock Station. The old down main line had become the new single line. This is Fishdock Road CCT level crossing. Ryby Street Station halt that was in use between 1904 and the Second World War stood on the far side of the crossing. This mural in Murray Street was seen by everyone entering the fish docks. Looking in the other direction from Fishdock Road level crossing, a Class 47 locomotive is seen returning from Cleethorpes, probably after taking a diesel fuel tank wagon from Imogen for fueling DMUs. Here it is passing the dock offices heading towards Dock Station. We are now filming from the front cab of a DMU and from Garden Street Junction. The grassed area on the right was the junction with the Great Northern Railway line. Tracks that had been removed from this small stretch of line between Garden Street and Pasture Street was the Up Goods line to East Marsh, Grimsby Corporation Highways sidings, which was on the right, and Orby Bradley's coal sidings, which was on the left.
Oh, yeah, I do. I know quite a bit about the loop, but
the mystery to me, I think to myself, they might shove them all in at the weekend and shove Cleethorpes up in the winter. I think there's something to it.
No.
What to say.
not in.
I don't believe everything.
We are now approaching Grimsby Docks station.
Good bloody rain.
Hurry up, going over the rough bit, mate. I think you're
Here at Cleethorpes Road Junction, the old down main line was slewed over to the old up main line to make the single line. We are now passing the buildings on the other side of Murray Street and Grimsby Fish Stocks South Market. The single line was again slewed across onto the down main line under Humber Street Bridge towards Nuclear Station.
Just get this bit.
This is all that remains of Nuclear Station.
Away we'll play.
We are now heading towards Fuller Street Bridge, over Suggett's Lane level crossing and to pass Cleethorpes carriage sidings towards a directional signal that leads us to Cleethorpes Station. The directional signal shows platform 4. We are now passing Cleethorpes Sidings washing plant.
We'll put it on the screen as well and show your missus on the railway.
No, she's interested in that.
Well, this is lovely.
That's
The fueling point, seen here on the left, contains a 2-axle 50-ton tank wagon, most likely brought here by the Class 47 engine we saw earlier at Fishstock Road. Here we are arriving into platform number 4, which was platform number 5 before the alterations. On the right, alongside platform 1, is the original station buildings, built in 1863. Welcome to Cleethorpes. Standing on the station forecourt is, left to right, Fred Gilliott, the passenger manager, Jack Langley, station supervisor, and Bob Whittleton, the Cleethorpes shunter. We are now standing at the eastern curve of Marsh Junction. Marsh Junction replaced the Great Coach Branch Railway as the main entrance for freight traffic to the western side of Grimsby Docks. This diesel multiple unit train is travelling on the up main line heading towards Littlefield Lane. Marsh Junction signal box opened in 1906 for traffic to West Marsh Yard and to Grimsby Docks via Great Coats No. 1 and No. 2 sidings, and has a connection to Immingham via the Grimsby and District Light Railway. The signalman on duty this day was Tony Bradley.
And it should be in on Friday.
Tony is signalling a train for Cleethorpes. It had just left Great Coats Station and is heading towards Littlefield Lane. This view from the window of the signal box is the freight railway looking in the direction of Great Coats No. 1 signal box. On the left are the few remaining lines in West Marsh Up Yard. The two lines on the right are the main goods lines between the signal boxes. The stop signals you can see control movements to and from the eastern and western curves. The down sidings to the right of the main lines were removed in 1982. This is the view the signalman sees of the eastern curve as another passenger train travels toward Littlefield Lane. The first signal box on the diversionary railway of Grimsby Docks is Great Coats Sidings No. 1. It opened in 1909 to serve West Marsh Yard and the block sections between Marsh Junction and Great Coats No. 2. This is West Marsh Yard up sidings. Only 5 of its original 12 lines remain. The yard pilot engine crew were waiting the arrival of an incoming train. The Class 08 pilot engine seen here in No. 3 Road was used for working steel traffic between West Marsh Yard, Brickpit Sidings and the western side of Royal Dock. On the day I was filming, a diesel multiple unit working for the civil engineers ran from Marsh Junction over the eastern curve towards the light railway. It is a possibility that this was the last train to use the eastern curve before it was taken out of use. The DMU is now approaching Cleveland Road Bridge. The original bridge was built in 1909 for the electric tramway between Grimsby and Immingham. In 1964, Great Coats No. 2 signal box closed. The block section was extended to West Marsh Junction until August 1982, when it was closed and Great Coats No. 1 became the only signal box left on the dock estate. A new track circuit block section single line was made to Powhite Road, and a new connection, seen here on the right, was made to Brick General Sidings via an up and down branch line worked by Staff and Ticket. This train on the single line from Powhite Road signal box, hauled by engine number 47016, is the Immingham to Grimsby Trips train known as 9T80. It is just passing Moody Lane crossing near to what was West Marsh Junction signal box. The train with wagons for West Marsh Yard is heading towards Greatcoats number 1. This view in the direction of the River Humber, taken from the A180 near Lock Hill, is off the western side of Grimsby Docks. A Class 08 shunting engine can be seen hauling a raft of loaded steel wagons from Grimsby Royal Dock, travelling on the Old Goods main line towards Brick General Sidings. The engine is now passing the entrance to what was once the Old Dock Lock, which of course is now blocked up. It is now passing some old timber sheds and the location of what was once Alexandra Dock signal box. You can just see one of the shunters running to alter a set of points as the train arrives into Brick Sidings. This view, taken from the southern side of Union Dock, shows the railway route from Brick General Sidings heading towards the western side of Royal Dock. These wagons were waiting for the pilot engine to return so that they can be shunted onto the quayside and to be loaded up with steel. Steel was unloaded from ships by the dockside crane into empty railway wagons on the quayside. pilot engine had returned with the empty wagons and placed them ready for loading. However, it was a purposely built railway tractor that was used to shunt wagons under the crane. These movements were under the control of the railway's operational mobile gang. On the quayside, seen here with the shunting pole, is the shunter in charge, Mr. Dennis Brown. Mr. William Weir was driving the tractor. Once the loaded wagons had been shunting clear for the pilot engine, the tractor would return to place empty wagons under the crane. Some of the rolled steel that was unloaded had to be kept dry, and it was the job of the mobile gang to cover the steel and secure it ready for travel. The men carrying out this work were Keith Selby, seen here on the left, and Gordon Overton on the right. This is how the load looked when they had finished. The pilot engine brings in more empties and shunts out the loaded before taking them to Brickpit Sidings. This view, looking in the direction of the western side of Royal Dock, is of the 10 tracks of Brickpit General Sidings and the one remaining goods main line. This view, looking in the opposite direction towards Moody Lane Crossing, shows the up and down branch line on the left and the siding shunt neck on the right. This is Moody Lane Open Crossing protecting the up and down branch line. From the other side of the crossing, on the left is the up and down branch line, and on the right is the single line between Greatcoats No. 1 and Pilewhite Road. This is the Class 08 West Marsh pilot engine hauling a trainload of steel from the up and down branch line, passing under the A180 bridge at Great Coast No. 1. This bridge was built in 1983. The train is now crossing from the branch line over the single line into West Marsh Sidings. Whilst the loading wagons were being placed into No. 3 siding line, a train of empty wagons hauled by locomotive 37110 arrived into the No. 2 track. The engine had been released from the train, it departed light towards Powhite Road and over the Grimsby and District Light Railway to Immingham Locomotive Depot. When British Rail built Powhite Road signal box in 1958, the Grimsby and District Light Railway was double-tracked to Immingham East Junction. The route, however, was reduced to a single track in 1987 and electric token block working was introduced. The level crossing gates were worked by wheel mechanism and its 20-lever frame contained releases for the ground frames at Courthouse, Fishmeal, Jonathan Potts and Titan's Tioxide Exchange Sidings. The electric token block machine is the red-shaped machine on the desktop. 5 tokens are shown in the machine, which on this day, for some unknown reason, was out of use. Arthur Taylor, the man sat in the chair, was acting as pilotman. British Titan Products Exchange Sidings, later known as Tioxide Exchange Sidings, was worked by a 2-lever ground frame operated by either a pilot engine shunter or a train guard.
It's only placed in England at a time what was cloud free, how it works out like that?
Oh, it is, yeah.
From the ground frame, a set of handpoints leads to Seaber Loop, which was used for running round trains, loading Dunlop products and the entrance to Seaber Sidings. These two wagons, tipped over on their side, were owned by the Tyoxide Company for carrying ilmenite. For some unknown reason, they had been derailed and were waiting to be put back on the tracks. This disused building was the original Grimsby and Immingham tramway maintenance shed. Titan's Tyoxide received lots of different types of raw materials by rail. One of them was a black material known as ilmenite. A ship would arrive each month from Australia into Immingham's mineral quay. Its whole cargo would be loaded into railway wagons and sent in Class 9 trains to Grimsby. This is one of the trains arriving, having taken the route from Immingham via Ulsby and Marsh Junction. Here we see the pilotman presenting himself to the driver of the train. As the engine of the ilmenite train runs round the train in Seaber Loop, Tyoxide's private engine makes its way into the far end of the exchange siding. Once the wagons had been propelled and released into the exchange siding, Tyoxide engine would draw the wagons into their own siding lines. The wagons were owned by Tyoxide, having purchased them from British Railways during the 1970s. These views were of Seaber Sidings before closure. Coulter's factory in Grimsby opened in 1952. All its raw material came every day by train and local truck pilots. Its ground frame was released by the signalman at Powhite Road. Once inside, the guard would place traffic for the firm into one of the inward lines, seen here on the left. The two lines on the right were for collecting the outward traffic, which had been placed there by Courtaulds engine. By the 1980s, the only traffic the firm was receiving was a weekly set of Runcorn tank wagons. To end the film, here are a few 1980s views of Grimsby docks, in areas where the railway companies were once dominant. This is the Great Northern Railway Company's warehouse, built in 1902. This building is Grimsby Dock Offices, built by the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company in 1884. Grimsby Royal Dock, with its tall dock tower, was constructed by the Manchester, Sheffield and Lincolnshire Railway Company and opened for business on the 27th of May 1852. The railway company erected these buildings on the north end of Grimsby Fish Market. They were still in use during the 1980s. Unfortunately, fish by railways had ceased during 1967 and road transport took over. However, there were still many views of what once was a thriving railway business. This is Warncliffe Road, the centre of Grimsby's fish market. We are now at Grimsby's oldest dock, constructed in 1800 and taken over by the railway companies. This bridge, known as Corporation Road Bridge, was designed by a railway dock engineer and paid for by Grimsby Town Council. We end the film with a view of the paddle steamer Lincoln Castle. It had worked for the railways, plying its trade between New Holland and Hull. It came to Grimsby in 1989 and opened as a restaurant at the side of the old dock.